Hello, BookTube. I've got a little bit of mail for you today. Had nothing at all yesterday. Yesterday was just low clouds, threatening rain, gusty. A blustery kind of autumnal day, despite the fact that it was 70 degrees. And today is the same thing. There's no hint of rain, and the rain has blown itself out. But it's cloudy, low scudding clouds, and there's a breeze, and the trees are all changing color, but it is 70 degrees. So you can walk around in your shirt sleeves. And I've got a bunch of periodicals and then a bunch of packages, including one that I opened off camera that I very much want to show you. The first of the periodicals is the Bedford Times Press. This is the local newspaper in Bedford, Iowa, that runs my book column every single week. There I am. It's a nice three-column book column, 1,000 words or so, on some bookish subject or other. What was this one about? Inevitably, there are one or two t-shirt style mottos or slogans that tend to speak to me when more than others. Let the Wookiee win appeals to my not-so-inner curmudgeon. There are days when my cynicism has the upper hand and I want to give a blanket thumbs up to Magneto was right. But naturally, the winner every time is the old favorite, so many books, so little time. So that's how that column starts. If you want to read this column, feel free to go to the Bedford Times Press and subscribe. I'm sure they'd be happy to send you a copy of the paper. And if you want to read it without going to that much bother, if you want it delivered to your doorstep or at your bus stop, feel free to put me in touch with the editor of your local newspaper. No matter how big or small, I'm pretty sure they can meet my rates. Then we have the Vineyard Gazette, the Martha's Vineyard Gazette, a broadsheet newspaper from the island of Martha's Vineyard off the coast of Massachusetts that was briefly famous because Florida's fascist governor, Ron DeSantis, sent a whole bunch of asylum seekers there illegally, kidnapped them and sent them there illegally. It's now the vineyard has now lapsed back into after season quiet. It's the vineyard booms during the summer. That's the season when 200,000 visitors, vacationers come there. It's a lovely place to vacation. In the off season, it goes back to a quiet living place, a small town basically, or a series of them. Then we have a couple of literary reviews. This is the New York Review of Books that has a lot. I haven't read it yet, but it has a lot in it that I like, although the table of contents kind of bothered me. This is the table of contents. Any of you who have ever worked in an old-style print newspaper will be recoiling right now. This is death. What on earth is this? What on earth is this? That is blank space. That should either be the rest of, that should either be the full indicia of the paper, or a bigger table of contents, or an ad. But this means should, once upon a time, for 300 years, this meant somebody's getting fired. As soon as the paper comes out, as soon as the first lead edition of this hits the desk of the editor, still wet with the ink, the editor would open the front page, see this, and fire the person responsible. Every single millimeter of a printed journal is worth money. I recoiled when I saw it. But there's a lot of stuff in here that I'm going to be interested in reading. Same thing with this, the greatest literary journal in the world, the TLS. Also full of stuff that it's going to be interesting to read. It's going to be interesting in both these cases to see who gets the job of writing up the latest Nobel laureate in literature. If you are a big journal like the New York Review of Books or the TLS, you're going to give that job to somebody. Also, the three newspapers of note in America, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, and the New York Times, somebody is going to get that job of explaining, of sort of synopsizing the big winner of any huge literary job, of any huge literary prize. Two people are going to do it in these two journals. I just know that they are. And I will read them. Absolutely. Those kinds of pieces are dutiful, yes, but they're almost always interesting. Then we have what has inexplicably become a kind of popular favorite among you all, which is an interior design magazine. You all seem to like it when I give my thoughts on interior design. This is the mother of them all. This is Architectural Digest, which, like all of them, has expensive ads at the front of the magazine. The front half of the magazine is expensive ads for home doohickeys and whatnot. Here you have, you've got that's how you know it's an ad and not a house profile, is that it will have the manufacturer so that you know who to go for your overpriced gigas and doohickeys. This is particularly repulsive to me because that is meant to evoke old-style wooden sliding ladders along a bookcase, but it is definitely not meant to be used as one. Nor are the shelves meant to be used for books. It's just meant to evoke that feeling. It's a kind of book chic that I absolutely hate. Yes, this kind of ladder. Only this one's in a kitchen. Again, there are no books. One of the things that I've just had to reconcile myself for in fashion magazines like this is the total absence of books, even when you expect them to be there. Here you have a manufacturer named Bernhardt with a full-page color ad for their so inviting chairs. Look at that. Doesn't it just make you all warm and cozy? Just to look at it? Don't you just want to relax? Oh, into that thing? Absolutely. Don't you worry. The Eastern European maid with suspiciously strong forearms is not inching up behind you as you sit in that chair. Don't you worry. Of course she's not. She's off doing something else. But once you get past all the ads, you do get to the house profiles. And that allows me to see what the 1% are doing with their homes. The first one is a guy who buys a French chalet. That is the French chalet. He buys that pile in order to live in it as an ordinary person. Probably 60 rooms, salons and whatnot. Here is a little writing area, natural light right there, but the table is an antique, the chair is an antique, so there's no use. You couldn't use it for any kind of work, no matter how pretty the view is out that window. I'm sure that the view is very pretty out that window. Can we actually tell which window it is? Probably this one over here. The view is probably very pretty, but why would you bother to make a workspace that's actually useful? Then you have a dining room. This is ruined by one detail. Can you make it out? The detail that ruins this dining room? It's got a couch in it. What on earth? What is supposed to happen on that couch? Are people going to sit on that couch during the meal who have been naughty and aren't allowed at the table? But it is saved by one little detail as well. Perhaps you can make out that little detail. The house just goes on and on. It is a monument to horrible taste, but it does make me curious. Like, for instance, what is that? I would love to see inside that. I would love to know what the owner is making out of that. It gets very little mention in the article. A tower of some kind, obviously, but imagine the possibilities. What could you do with this? There I might live. I wouldn't live in a house this big, but I might live in that little tower. Look what this guy does to the wallpaper of his bedroom. Look at that. And once again, we have two things that we've seen in other issues. This kind of weird goldfish tank bed arrangement that is, I mean, it doesn't have the drapes. The reason that you have a 4-poster like this is so that you can put up drapes to put around it. If it doesn't have the drapes, then you are building a cage to sleep in. You're building a hamster box to sleep in. I don't get that at all. I also don't understand why in a drafty old house, I guarantee you this place is drafty, I don't know why you would put a chair in front of the radiator. It's going to hugely block the flow of the heat. But if that's bad, you just have to step off the master bedroom to see something even worse, which is the master bathroom. You're not seeing wrong. That's a chair pointed directly at the tub. So the couch in the dining room wasn't bad enough. Now you also have spectator venues in the bathroom. Why would you do that? Why would you have a tub in the middle of a room like that? It's almost as bad as another fad that I'm assuming is universal because it's in every house that we see, of putting the bed in the middle of the room. Look, there you go. That bed is in the middle of the room. You can walk all the way around it. Who could possibly sleep in such a circumstance as that? Could you? Imagine putting a bed smack in the middle of the room where people can just walk around it. The next profile, we're told that this person is an internet sensation. Her name is Emma Chamberlain. I don't know this person at all. I am an internet sensation. I don't have enough money to own a house. Not that I would buy one if I did, but I might buy one for you. That's her. Do you know, any of you know Emma Chamberlain? I have no idea who Emma Chamberlain is. The one thing I know about Emma Chamberlain is that, like everybody else, internet sensation or not, she has hideous taste. Absolutely horrible taste. It shows practically everywhere. Here's in the bathroom is a chair with feet on it. What are you supposed to do with that? Well, it has a dish with blocks of artisanal soap on it, so you're clearly not meant to sit on it, which is kind of strange because it's right next to the toilet. And the houses in this issue have a tendency to have spectator seating pointed directly at private functions. So I'm kind of surprised there isn't a chair where you get to stare at someone while they sit on the toilet. But as with everywhere else, there is the bed in the middle of the room. It's far away from the windows. Notice there are books in the room, but they're below the foot of the bed. You would have to get up and walk all the way around the bed to even get to them. There are no books on the nightstands, and I'm sure they're not allowed to be on the nightstands. It's just a big antiseptic warehouse space with no hint that human beings live in it. But you also get to walk all the way around the bed. Someone could stand behind the bed, the headboard. Someone could also, more to the point, crouch behind the bedboard. Insane. I know you people all love your sleeping, but how could anybody sleep in such a situation as that? I don't get it at all. And in case you were wondering, here is the chair. And we're told that the price is available upon request. Usually that means that the price is so sky high that people would have blood burst out their eyes if they saw it. So the manufacturers leave it off. And I've also heard that sometimes the price is available upon request notation comes from the manufacturer because they're going to gauge the price according to how much you can pay. Upwards. I could be wrong about that. Then we move to a home in Greenwich Village. Big, sprawling living room. There are 4 books on the coffee table. You are not allowed to touch them, and there are no books anywhere else. No, none at all. Just a big, airy, open room. But what good does the openness do? The chair, you have your back to the window. The couch, 2 other people have their back to the window. Here you can look at the window, and so can you here, but you're not going to do that if you've got people sitting right here. Just wasted opportunity, which is so often the theme in these big, opulent houses, is wasted opportunity. This particular Greenwich Village house has a kid. And super wealthy people always treat kids as though they were from Hollywood movies. Here is a kid's room, for instance, with a big stuffed giraffe. The big stuffed giraffe is a dead Hollywood giveaway that the person in question has never met their own kids and has no idea who they are. They're getting that from Hollywood. Once again, the chair is well away from the wall. You can walk all the way around it, and it is not availing of the window. Just huge missed opportunities, and the creepy full-size giraffe. But the creepiest thing here is the lady of the house, whose quote is, she's talking about her husband, "Since childhood, I've lived in Alex's creations, which means I've grown up a beneficiary of his incredible talent." I'm sure that she's allowed out on alternate weekends. Then we have a house on Connecticut's Housatonic River, a river I know quite well, a lovely, lovely river. The house, however, largely a missed opportunity. Here is a foyer off of you've got a French door there that walks out into the real estate, but look how uninviting it is. No one can use that chair, first of all. That will crumple upon even the attempt to sit on it. So no one can actually sit at that table. So you've got a chessboard that no one can use, which is a blasphemy. The gods take notice of such blasphemies. But when you're thinking about buying a thing like this, remember what I said last time. Your yardstick should be me and my Deb. 2 fat, old, sweaty, old people. Big, disheveled, ungainly old people. We would destroy such a thing as this. It's wicker and wire. We would destroy it in a heartbeat. But you definitely, the reason we are your yardstick is because you definitely want your house to be inviting to us. You definitely do. We may be old and disheveled and decrepit, but we're pretty awesome. You want us to be comfortable in your home. So comfortable that, I don't know, we get reluctant to leave. That won't do it. So don't invest your money. That's probably $600. This is the house perched on the river like that. Very nice. Lots of potential. All the potential is wasted. You see, it's just totally antiseptic. Also, I'm no big fan of a complete throughway plan like that of a house where you can look in a straight line through 5 different rooms. I'm no big fan of that. I know that it's a very old design, but I don't like it. And there was one other detail here that I wanted to show you. Oh, yes, I want to show you this lovely photo of the river itself in the morning mist. Very nice. Very nice. Lord knows what could be done with a house like this. It won't be done, but it could be done. But that was Architectural Digest, full of missed opportunities. But then we have other glossy magazines, like, for instance, Harper's Magazine, which has a robust book coverage in the back. There's Claire Bucknell has a long piece in here on Casanova. might be connected with Leo Damrosch's biography of him, but it could just be a freestanding literary essay, Casanova and his memoirs and whatnot. That'll be interesting. It's Claire Massoud that does the new books column for Harper's, and I find it often sort of prey to whimsy, but very interesting all the same. The top article there, Why Marilyn Monroe Matters, spoiler, she doesn't. And the line at the bottom, A Father's Guide to Nabokov's Berlin, that will be intriguing to me because I have, probably fruitlessly, I am slowly gravitating towards a grand reconsideration of Nabokov. I have done that twice before since he started publishing books, and it doesn't work. Whatever charm has always won me over to the Russians it stops at his doorstep. And maybe I have told myself over and over again that the reason for that is because I have hated the way young men between the ages of 18 and 25 have responded to Lolita, where they make a point of memorizing it. So they don't remember their phone number. They don't remember their mother's birthday, so they're late getting her a present. They get her something from the filling station. But they know the first 10 pages of Lolita by heart. I admit that over the decades, that has annoyed me so royally that maybe that has some part of why I've been disposed against this guy, but I will still read that article anyway. And then the last of the glossy magazines here is Vanity Fair, and this is the Vanity Fair that I was waiting for with the last one. This is, I have no idea what you wear, where you would ever wear that thing, but you can see this has the long-awaited article on Ezra Miller. That I wonder if I can find it in here. It'd be a long article. It was quoted everywhere because this was online long before it saw print. I don't know if this is the article here. We Need to Talk About Ezra, which is by Julie Miller and which references his breakout role in the movie We Need to Talk About Kevin. And I did read this because it was linked, the whole article was linked online in many places a month ago. And a number of times in the article, the writer makes the sort of an implication that this is rock bottom, that when an actor has so much negative press, is just generating so much negative press with one bizarre story after another that things can't get any worse. And that is not true. That we saw that today. It's trending on Twitter today that Ezra Miller is definitely it looks like he's definitely going to face legal jeopardy for breaking and entering in Vermont. The line on Twitter that went viral today is that he could be facing 26 years in prison. Now, that's certainly not going to happen. He won't face a day in prison, but that's serious. That is what's on the statute. And I can only imagine, as divorced from reality as he is, just completely divorced from reality, both personal and professional, just has no idea what the world is. As divorced as he is, I can't help but think that number probably got through to him. But the idea that legal prosecution is going forward and that it could cost him a quarter of a century, it won't. But that on paper, the idea that could even happen and that this isn't just going to go away with a pro forma insincere apology is a new chapter to the story. Let's hope the author of this article writes the whole story as a book. But either way, next month she could write another 6,000 word piece on the new trials of Ezra Miller, and it would be all new material. Who knows how that will come out? This also has a long article on Ron DeSantis. I've also seen glimpses of that article linked online. Can Ron DeSantis steal Trumpism from Trump? I don't know quite what to make about stories like that about Florida's fascist governor Ron DeSantis. The whole idea of can he be the new Trump seems to me to be a journalistic red herring of a type that is guaranteed to get eyeballs on your content, but that does a drastic disservice to the social contract, to the government, to the country, to the people. Can Ron DeSantis steal Trumpism from Trump? It's a fun, game-like way to describe all of this. As I've mentioned before, as I've mentioned a few times on this channel, the key thing to look at is whether or not Florida's fascist governor, Ron DeSantis, can involuntarily lose his current job. If the answer to that question is no, then you don't live in a representative democracy. At least one district of your country is no longer a democratic republic, is no longer part of a democratic republic. And the answer to that question in Ron DeSantis' case is no. He is not going to concede any election that he loses. He has thugs at polling places and voting places to intimidate voters. He has the police work for him. They don't work for the law. They don't work for the oath that they swore. They work for him. His courts also work for him and have vowed, every official in them has vowed that no Democrat will win, that he will not be unseated. And you might say, well, even given all of that, if the people of Florida vote him out, then he's out. No, he'll say that he's not. He'll say that he won and that it's a Democratic trick. And you might say, well, he can, the courts will rule against him. His own courts won't rule against him. His court officials, his election officials, his vote registrars and whatnot have their job specifically because they openly said out loud in public that's the reason they have the job. That's the reason they want it, is to make sure that he wins. So you might say, well, okay, he'll appeal it to the Supreme Court. But A, the Supreme Court won't vote against him. And B, even if they do, he has a private military in Florida. At the border, all the major states, it answers to him. Again, privately to him, not to the voters of Florida, not to the Florida legislation. Which means, as I've said many times before, none of you believe me, none of you have to, we can just let it go. The only way that he can lose his job, there are only two ways that he can lose his current job as ruler of Florida. One is that he takes a job as ruler of America. And the other is that a democratically elected free government in Washington, D.C. sends federal troops to conduct a firefight in the streets of Tallahassee and remove him forcibly from power, which would mean war on the soil of Florida. The armed forces in Florida would fight the United States government. They would fight the Marines if they were sent in. They might lose, but a lot of people would die. City blocks would be blown up. It would look like something out of a bad weekend in Palestine. Those are the only two ways. He can't lose his job any other way. So I don't know why you would write an article asking, can he steal Trumpism from Trump? I don't know. It's like that's just a whole different conversation. It's just a gigantic red herring. But we're not going to talk about politics. We've got books to talk about. We're 20 minutes into this video. We haven't touched the books yet. So let's look at what we have. I'm going to finish up with the one that I opened already because I want to draw your attention to it especially. What have we got first here? How are we going to do this? Oh, we've got two books. Okay. The first one is something we've seen already. This is Jamie Krainer's book, The Wandering Mind, What Medieval Monks Can Tell Us About Distraction. Very nice. For those of you who didn't hear about it the first time, let's read a little about it now. It is easy to imagine that our state of constant distractedness is peculiar to the digital age, but distraction has been the concern of every era, perhaps never more so than for Christian monks living in Ireland, Iran, and places in between, from 300 to 900 CE. That's AD, Anno Domini. Though they quit the world for lives of seclusion, monks still struggled to concentrate, and they came to perceive distraction as a fundamental problem of consciousness. As the historian Jamie Krainer reveals in The Wandering Mind, we are obsessed with the distraction today, in large part because they were. Exploring the sophisticated techniques monks developed in their endless quest to clear their heads, from unforgiving sleep regimens to massive meditational construction projects, she demonstrates that their insights remarkably can be useful to us now. So I have the same questions now. This is a double. This comes out in January. I have the same questions now reading this to you as I did the first time when I got the first advanced copy, which is, how bad is distraction a problem in your own life? How much of a problem do you have with it? I think it's fascinating. Do you exercise control over your mind, self-control over your mind? Are you the helpless plaything of every notification sound, every bell, every ping, every app? I'd love to know. I'd love to know. Most of the people that I know in the 21st century have lost the ability to concentrate. And I don't mean they've lost the ability to sit quietly through an entire evening of Tannhäuser. I mean they've lost the ability to concentrate on anything. At all. For any length of time whatsoever. Which is really bad. That is really, really bad. I know plenty of people who make an order at the McDonald's drive-thru window, and when they get to the window to pay, they've forgotten what the order is. And wouldn't know if they got it wrong. I know plenty of people in the 21st century who have lost any ability to concentrate. And quite a few of them used to be readers. Of course, the ability to concentrate is essential to reading. And it can also strengthen that ability. If you feel like yours is weakening, do more reading. But I'd love to hear it. So what is the next one? Oh, wonderful. The next one is a new translation by Brooke Zipporn of the Tao Te Ching of Lao Tzu. This will be the Tao Te Ching of Lao Tzu, but it's a brand new translation. Those always pump life into a consideration of an ancient work. I'm all for it. This is January as well. Grounded in a lifetime of research and interpretive work and informed by a careful study of recent archaeological discoveries of alternate versions of the text, the translator, one of the preeminent explicators of Eastern religion in English, brings us a revelatory new translation and a radical reinterpretation of the central text of Taoist thought. I have already read this. I've read only a handful of books that are 2023 releases, but I couldn't resist, and it's not long. And I have to admit, new translations like this, where the translator is working to blow the dust off something, they are so fascinating to me. They're absolutely so fascinating to me. So I read this already and loved it. Just loved it. I'm not, to put it mildly, on the same wavelength as Eastern philosophy. Not at all. I'm not at all on the same wavelength. I'm far more on the wavelength of medieval Irish monks. But I found this fascinating. Just fascinating. I'll be amazed if it doesn't make a list in 2023 of the best works in translation. Then we'll move on. Here, we're going to just keep going so this doesn't last forever. We've got one of these big white envelopes. Let's see what's in here. A finished copy of some kind. Oh, great. Okay, fantastic. I got approached by the publicist about this thing. This is already out, I believe. No, this comes out in early November. This is by Christopher de Bellaigue, and it is called The Lion House, The Coming of a King. I swear, why can't every U.S. book look like this? That is just lovely. What have we got here? The Lion House, the new book from the acclaimed journalist, linguist, and historian, is an intimate exploration of the life of Suleiman the Magnificent, the longest reigning and perhaps most prominent sultan of the Ottoman Empire, told through the eyewitness accounts of the people that surrounded him, from the Greek slave who became his grand vizier to his private commander, Barbarossa. Through the gripping five-act structure, the author chronicles the early years of this 16th century ruler of the Ottoman Empire in a narrative that is informing as it is compelling. This book combines meticulous research from primary sources in 7 languages with the narrative methods of a novel, offering a vivid epic that also abides by top-of-the-class scholarly standards. I am totally sold. Totally sold. I will read this. The publicist and I have been back and forth about this book. I'm going to read this tonight, even though it's an early November release. Early November is, I don't want to shock you, really close. So I'm going to read this tonight. Suleiman the Magnificent and I go way back. So I'm going to be very happy to read this thing and see what the author can do. Again, it will be, in part, a blowing of dust off an old and settled subject. That's fine by me. Then we have a box. Ordinarily, the box would be last, but I want to save the last place for something else that will come with a very rare call to action. So we'll do the box first and get that out of the way. The box just has to be forced by name first, unfortunately. What is this? Oh, great. Oh, fantastic. Okay, the other day, I got a finished copy of The Starless Crown by James Rollins, who a lot of you will probably know for his big Da Vinci Code-esque thrillers that he's done. In the last 10 years, he's done thrillers, airport thrillers, and they've done really well, and they are really good. But he started out writing fantasy, and with The Starless Crown, he returns to epic fantasy. And I read that first book and thought it was really good, totally engaging. No, nothing groundbreaking, but really, really involving. And the reason I got the second copy of that finished copy from the publisher is because the new book is coming out. The book 2 in the series comes out in February. This is The Cradle of Ice, and it looks to be a third longer than The Starless Crown. Welcome back to the world of the moonfall saga. The moon is falling in this storyline, where secrets are buried deep beneath the earth and the stakes are literally sky high because the moon itself is the real enemy. This novel marks James Rollins' return to the incredible fantasy world that was introduced in his instant bestseller, The Starless Crown. While James is the renowned author of critically acclaimed international thrillers, there we go, his literary origins are in the speculative fiction, and he's never lost his love of the genre. The Moonfall Saga has been a passion project for years in the making, and I hope you'll consider including James in the second entry in his series in your forthcoming coverage. Publicists have to talk that way, and they know, book publicists know, that the second book in a series is an infinitely harder sell than the first book in the series for any book section editor, which yours truly happened to be, or for any freelance reviewer, which yours truly happens to be, or for any freelance syndicated book columnist, which yours truly happens to be. They know that this is an uphill battle. I myself will certainly read this. I thought the first one was well good enough to read the second one. And the first one even had all the elements of laying groundwork, so that there's every reason to think that the second one will be light years better, even though the first one was good. Are you going to try and summarize anything in here, I wonder? Let's see here. In this book, an apocalypse was foretold and a fellowship was formed. Bad choice of words. But a soldier, a thief, a lost prince, and a young girl bonded by fate and looming disaster. Each step along this path has changed the party, forging deep alliances and greater enmities. All the while, hostile forces have hunted them, fearing what they might unleash. Armies wage war around them, for each step has come with a cost, in blood, in loss, in heartbreak. One of the heartbreaks from the first book takes place literally on the last page. Now, as they must split, traveling into a vast region of ice and to a sprawling capital of the world they've only known in stories. Time is running out, and only the truth will save us all. Okay, well, I'm on board. You should be too. If you're a fan of epic fantasy, I think you're really going to like this. Like I say, it doesn't break any new ground, but I don't require that of a book to like it. I'm hoping you don't either. I'm hoping you're not so addicted to novelty that you'd let something like this slip by. First, I have to reread the Starless Crown. First I'll read the Starless. What was the Starless Crown. First, I want to reread that. Even though I think I remember it well enough, I don't want any, this is, judging by the way the first book ended, this one's probably going to take up the action maybe 30 seconds later. And when it's like that, when something's like that, you really want to be up on the first book before you read the second. So, and I have the first one now, so I will reread that and then be ready for this in the new year. And then we have a book that I opened off camera. I wanted to show it to you because it is so wonderful that I thought you might want to know about it so that you could maybe get a copy. This was sent to me by the author, not by a publisher, and it's by Grace Colby with illustrations by Catherine Chen, and it's called Hellotreeitsme. It is a lovely kids book with French flaps that is all about simply extolling the wonder of trees for kids. That's all it is. Of course, it ends up being more than that, right? Kids have remarkable tunnel vision, as any of you have them will know. They have remarkable tunnel vision. Basically, they have to be taught a lot of the wonder that people who over-sentimentalize childhood think comes naturally with childhood. That's not true. It doesn't come naturally. Wonder is an adult function. They need to be taught a lot of that wonder. They're more open to it than adults are, but they don't come to it. Most of them don't come to it naturally. Curiosity, maybe. But again, of a very tunnel vision kind. Children are trying to make their way. They're trying to figure out this enormous world. So they're not wandering around, most of them, unless they've learned wonder from adults. They're not wandering around grasping at things and saying, oh, I see fairies and whatnot. This book is designed to instill that wonder in kids towards trees, which they see every day, but might not pay any attention to. And it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. It takes you on a journey of everything that trees are and everything that trees do. It talks about the roots that they send out into the ground and what those roots do. It talks about the people, the animals who live in the tree there. Yay! Naturally, thumbs up for the team. But everything else too, the bugs, bees, birds, squirrels. It talks about how they make their lives in the tree. They don't just scamper around on it. They have bedrooms just like the kid does. They have playgrounds just like the kid does. It's delightful. It's just delightful. It's done, who was it again? Catherine Chen makes a very wise decision. All of these blank backgrounds are a very wise decision on her part, artistically speaking, because they bring the wonder into simple spotlight of all the things that go on in a tree or under its shade or anywhere around a tree. Now, I said your roots hold soggy earth in place and keep the rivers clean. See, so you are very unobtrusively, very easily teaching children what trees do, in addition to what they look like and who might be living on them and how neat they are. It teaches children about what they do, and that's just wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful. There's no preachiness in it at all, as you might expect, right? In this day and age, you might expect that a book like this would waste a lot of time guilt tripping little kids about how trees are dying and whatnot, how the world is horrible and full of soot. This doesn't do that. Instead, this is merely meant to take your kids through the wonder of trees without any kind of browbeating and without any kind of detailed specifics either. Very wisely, again, the choice that Grace Colby makes here is to emphasize throughout the book aspects of trees that kids will then be able to see themselves. No attempt is made here, really, aside from that bit about roots holding soggy soil or cleaning the water. No real attempt is made here to teach anything, except wonder. So that when you walk through this book with your kid on the living room floor together, the next time you're out and about, whether it's you walking them to school or them being out in the park, they're going to notice trees. They're going to notice trees a lot better. That is a wonderful effect for a kid's book to have. I was utterly enchanted with this thing when I got it, and I wanted to make sure you saw it. I also want to say that if you want, I think this is, who does this? Well, it's copyright Grace Colby, so it's Community Greening. This thing was made in collaboration with Community Greening. A portion of the proceeds support Community Greening's mission to plant trees in South Florida, where they're desperately needed, as recent news has shown. I will leave a link. I don't usually do this, right? I always joke on this channel that authors are my natural enemy in the wild. I am a critic, after all. But I'm going to leave a link to where you can go and get this book. I think there's a link right on the book somewhere. I'll look it up and I'll leave a link down below, because this is delightful. If you have a kid who is in any way inclined to like the natural world, you're going to want to get this for them and take them through it. Although, I have to confess, in the manner of all really good children's picture books, it had that effect on me, and I haven't been a kid in 28 years. It had that effect on me. I finished this, and then the next time the Bean and I were out for a walk, I was paying serious attention to the trees that we were passing. I was looking at the different kinds of them. I was looking at where their roots are, where they go. Quite a few of them are burrowing under concrete of sidewalks. Quite a few are out in the wilderness where they've never known the touch of humankind, not in 10 generations or 100 years. It had that effect on me. I'm sure that it'll have the effect on little ones that you know. So strongly, strongly recommended. That's what I'm trying to say. I will leave the important links down below so you can go and get a copy of this thing yourself. And if Grace is watching, thank you very much for sending this to me. It was a breath of fresh air in a crowded day. So that's the mail. We have Hello Tree, It's Me. We have The Cradle of Ice, second book in this series. We have The Lion House about Suleiman the Magnificent, a new novelistic but still heavily researched, 7 languages, biography of Suleiman the Magnificent. Great. We have a new translation of the Tao Te Ching coming next year. We have The Wandering Mind, all that medieval monks can tell us about concentration and how to retain it and improve it. And that's it. So quite a few of these books are next year. The Lion House is, I think, the only one, and the Hello Tree, It's Me are the only ones that are out now. But we had a lot of periodicals as well, as we try to keep track of Ezra Miller. So this has gone on quite long enough. I'm going to wrap this up for now. That was the mail for today, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.